Hello, everybody. Hello, it's Tuesday, May the 12th. So glad to see everybody. Hope you're doing fantastic today. It is right about lunchtime for me here in Virginia. So I hope you've had a wonderful morning. Today we're going to spend some time making the odds and ends quilt block. This is going to be a 12-inch quilt block. It'll actually finish at 12.5 by 12.5 with our seam allowances. You'll need 3 colors of fabric, and the pieces are here on the screen of what you need to make this quilt block. And an example of the quilt block is also here on the screen. Today I'm using purples and pinks like you see on the screen. Should be a lot of fun. If you're here live, I have some really fun and playful questions for today, so I hope you play along if you're not sewing. If you can sew and play along, that would be great too. And if you're watching this on the replay, we're going to be here for about an hour and a half. I hope you stick with me so you can see how to make the odds and ends quilt block. But we are live today. So if you're live and you want to play along in the chat, that would be great. If you're watching on the replay, feel free to ask questions and answer today's fun questions down in the comment section. We'd love to hear from you. Hello, everybody. Also, if you're new on my channel or you've just come along and you've started watching this series, I would love it if you subscribe and hit the bell notification. If you do that and you select all, then you'll get a little pop-up notification when I go live. You want to see this one as a full quilt, Miss Joan? Ask and you shall receive. Not all the time. I can do that. This is what it looks like 3 different ways, arranged in 3 different ways. The middle one is my favorite. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon. Right? Depends on where you are. Oh, Sue, you make a good point. If you like doing quilt as you go, you might really like this block because it's already going to add sashing for you when you put it together. So smart. I'm going to tell you the people that watch my videos, they are smart and they are creative. That is for sure. You're welcome, Joan. There you go. 3 different arrangements. I like all 3, but the middle is my favorite. And make sure you stick around to the end of this video because I'm going to put on the screen tomorrow's block. So if you want to sew with me live tomorrow, you'll have all the rest of today and tonight and tomorrow morning to cut out your pieces for tomorrow's block. I really like tomorrow's block. I like today's block too. Vicki, you are so welcome. You're so welcome. I want to thank my moderators. You guys help make these videos possible for everybody. Takes a lot of stress, a lot of pressure off of me. So I want to thank y'all so much. Yes, I do. Odds and ends. Go ahead, make sure you have your 1/4 inch seam allowance set on your machine. I just filled my bobbin this morning, so we're ready to start sewing. As we've done this series, y'all, before we get started, I just want to let you know, the whole purpose of this series, and that's why if you're watching this on the replay and you want to see how to make the odds and ends block, you're going to have to sit around for 45 minutes to an hour. Because the whole point of this series is not only to learn a new quilt block and see how it's made, but it's to give everyone an opportunity to spend some time with each other during this shut-in quarantine time, right? So I hope you take advantage of being able to chat with everybody here in the live chat. Sharon, you're still having trouble with your 1/4 inch. What you should do is probably get yourself like a little piece of paper or an index card, measure over from the edge of it a line, a 1/4 inch line. Then line up the edge of your note card to the edge of your presser foot and move the needle over until it lines up when you lower the needle to your 1/4 inch line that you drew. When you do that, go ahead and get yourself some painter's tape. Some painter's tape. Something like this, or masking tape. Take 3 or 4 pieces of masking tape and lay them one on top of the other so it builds up a little ledge. And while your note card is still under your presser foot, lay down that tape right next to the note card. I think that would help a lot with your 1/4 inch seam. I think that would help a lot. Hello, everybody. No worries, June. We're going to do some other stuff besides blocks. So we'll have lots and lots of opportunities to hang out with each other. And now that I've done all of these videos, I am a lot more comfortable coming on YouTube live. So I can see us hanging out, doing lots of other fun projects. There'll be lots of different ways to spend some time together. Sue says, when I do that, it's too wide because of the ink line going besides the ruler. Okay, so move your needle a couple of notches to the right. And try that. And keep adjusting until when you sew and you measure, it comes out a 1/4 inch. Keep adjusting until you find that. Beverly, most of the time I use an accurate 1/4 inch. Some blocks, when I do that, because of the thickness of my thread or maybe the thickness of the fabric that I'm working with, sometimes my pieces will come out a tad bit smaller. But most of the time I use right at a 1/4 inch. Ooh, Jadira shared a good tip. I've never tried that before. She uses a popsicle stick with painter's tape to help with her 1/4 inch. That's a great tip. Yeah, keep trying. And when you find that perfect 1/4 inch for your machine, because all machines are different, right? When you find it, lay down some tape so you don't miss it, and then you're ready to go. It's also helpful to write down your needle position. If your machine tells you the needle position, or maybe you have a dial that you're turning, when you find that 1/4 inch, write it down where your needle placement is, and then just tape that right to the side of your machine or something so you don't forget. Chantel, a scant 1/4 inch is when you set up your machine to a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then you bump the needle over to the right a notch or two to allow for the thickness of your thread and the thickness of the fabric that you're sewing, because when you press that seam over, it's going to eat up some of that seam allowance. So if you move over slightly to the right, that'll give you a scant 1/4 inch, which helps your blocks come out more true to size. All righty, everybody. All right, let's see. Just make sure that I don't have any more questions before we start sewing today. Beverly says she found out her thread was too thick, so she's using a thinner thread, which helps with her seam allowance. It does. Janet sews on a scrap to measure and find her 1/4 inch. Yes, that is smart. Brenda uses Gorilla Tape. Sharon says, does polyester have a weight? My cotton is 50 or 60 weight, so it's smaller and doesn't take up the width. She's having to trim her pieces down, her blocks down. My polyester does have a weight, but it's not on my cone, so I couldn't tell you what weight it is. But when I pull up the specs online, it tells you what the weight is. Is it possible that not all machines can move their needle? You should be able to move your needle to the left and to the right. You should be able to move it. Because if you're making clothes, you have a different seam allowance, right? And you got to move it. If you're making quilt blocks, usually, most of the time, it's a 1/4 inch seam allowance, so you'd have to move it. You should be able to move your needle to the left or to the right. Now, I guess if you have a straight stitch machine only, then maybe it's possible you don't move your needle, but you have different feet that will give for a different seam allowance, or on your needle plate are different measurements. And so maybe instead of lining up your fabric to the presser foot, you line it up to one of the measurements on your plate, and that gives you a different seam allowance. So yeah, I guess it is possible that your needle doesn't move. And then you would find your seam allowance on your needle plate or with a different foot. All right, y'all, let's jump in and get started sewing today. Yeah, Catakip says there are machines that just go up and down like a straight stitch machine. Ooh, here comes the mailman. I got a package for the mailman to pick up today. I hope he gets my box. I hope he gets my box, Mr. Postman. Get my box down there. Oh, Diana says, I confess, I made this block last night so I could talk today. You so smart. You so smart. As long as you didn't share pictures on Creative Crew Group of the block before we made it, you're all good. Now you can just sit back and chit chat. All right, y'all, let's move on over to my fabric pieces for today. Here we are. I'm using purple and yellow, just like the example. Just like the example. Before we lay out all the pieces for this block, let's break this block up into 3 different little assignments, 3 little chores, before we line up all of our pieces out in the order. Let's start with our cutting that we have to do. We have to cut apart some half square triangles. So here on my board, I have all of my pieces. We're going to start today with the pieces that are 5 7/8 by 5 7/8. There should be 2 of them. I have a yellow and a dark purple. We're going to start today by cutting these. We'll be cutting these one time right down the center. I'm going to line up both of my fabrics so that I am only making one cut. One right on top of the other. We're going to line that up on my mat, corner to corner, nice and straight. And we're cutting one time right down the center. So let's go ahead and start with our fun questions for today. And these are just meant to be fun and playful. They're rhetorical questions. We can have fun with them. Let's say you're standing on a deck facing 2 pools. You have the pool on the left is full of Jell-O. You have the pool on the right is full of chocolate pudding. And you're going to swim in one of the 2 pools. Would you pick the Jell-O pool or the chocolate pudding pool? All right, so we have 2 dark purple triangles. and 2 yellow triangles. We're going to start today by piecing these triangles together. So I'm going to flip the yellow triangle right on over and line that up nice and straight with one another. And we're sewing on the longest side of the triangle together. That's the seam that'll go right down the middle with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Once I get these half square triangles pressed open, I'll give you a measurement of the finished size of this half square triangle unit. Would you pick the Jello pool or the chocolate pudding pool? So there's our first one, and we're going to flip these other 2 right over and line them up. I think if it were a hot day, I'd pick the Jello pool because that sounds kind of refreshing. What flavor of Jello? Does anybody like the peach Jello? That's my favorite one. Peach Jello pudding pool. Peach Jello pool. So here's our first chore for the day. We have 2 half square triangle units. I'm going to cut them apart. Guess what? I still have not vacuumed my floor, so these dog ears will get trimmed and join the dog ear party on my floor. I probably won't vacuum until Saturday. There you go. Join that party on the floor. This is all the cutting for today's block. So let me get these pressed and then I'll give you a measurement. When I press these, you can press them open if you want to. I'm pressing over to the purple side. Pudding or Jello pool? I thought that was kind of fun. So those contrast really nicely. Let's take a measurement. Let's see. If you're making your half square triangles in a different way, or you need to trim them up, they need to measure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5 by 5.5. That's your finished half square triangle sizes. And that's the very first thing we're doing for today's block. So we have that. There's our half square triangles. I'm going to give everybody a minute to catch up in case you're sewing with me live. Ooh, peach with peach schnapps Jello shots. That sounds like a pool I'd like to swim in. That would be a fun pool to swim in. Sherry, you missed the question. All right, the question number 1, while we give everybody a chance to catch up with their half square triangle. You're standing on a deck and you're looking at a pool on the left that's full of Jello and a pool on the right that's full of pudding. You're going to swim in one of them. Which one would you choose? All right, Miss Doris, you'll catch us on the replay. I hope you have a very good day at work. Miss Chantel, if you take pictures of your sewing machine and post them on Creative Crew Group, it would be really easy to see what you're working with. And we'd be able to figure out the functions of your machine. Also, do you have the manual for your machine? If you don't have the manual, you might be able to type in a Google search the make and model of your machine and see if there isn't a manual online that you can open up a PDF for. A lot of machines do that. If you press your seams open, can you still stitch in the ditch? Mr. Jarrett, I think yes, you could still stitch in the ditch. However, I have an easier time stitching in the ditch, mostly when I press my seams to one side or the other. And that's just me. We're all different. I have an easier time stitching in the ditch when I have that little lip from pressing one side to the other. It doesn't always make it easier, but for me, most of the time it does. The Jello pool, chocolate pudding pool. We have split answers, pudding and Jello. I think I would pick the Jello pool. Lulu says swimming in Jello since it's clear. She can see through it, but wading in a pudding because it tastes better. So she would swim in Jello, but just wade in pudding. I see your point on both. All right, so we have our first assignment for this block done, the 2 half square triangles. They're done and they're pressed 5.5 by 5.5. Connie wants to know if you stitch in the ditch on a seam that's pressed open, wouldn't that weaken the seam? I've read so many discussions on that, Connie. Because I go to quilting blogs and threads and read answers, and I've always seen split opinions about that. They say that it weakens the seam, and I've heard some people say that it strengthens the seam. So I'm not sure. I don't know the answer 100% on that, Miss Connie. If it actually strengthens it by adding more thread in there, or if it weakens it. I'm not really sure. I've read one way and I've read the other, so I'm not really sure. When I stitch in the ditch, though, I'm not really stitching right into that seam anyway. I'm usually stitching right next to it. All right, so we have our first assignment done. There's those. Let's go ahead and move over to our strip sets. We have 2 light purple, 2 dark purple, and they both measure 1.5 inches wide and 10.5 inches long. We're going to flip the light purple onto the dark purple. This is a longer piece, so if you need to glue base this, or if you need to throw some pins in there to help you keep it lined up one side to the other, you can go ahead and do that. We're sewing all the way down with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Miss Joan, why would you want to use a scant 1/4 inch? Sometimes if you're working with a thicker fabric, that thickness of your seam is going to eat up some of the size of your block. So if you use a scant 1/4 inch, that's going to give you your size back that either the thread or the fabric eats up if you're pressing to one side or pressing open even. Go nice and slow with this if you need to. Just make sure that you stay as straight as possible. From one side over to the other. We're going to flip that right over and sew this one. It'd be real easy to get a wonky strip set if your line is wavy. So try to stay as straight as possible. Again, a little tape edge to give yourself a lip would be helpful if you have a hard time sewing longer straight lines. So there's those 2 units. Let's cut those apart. Let's move on to our next question. You're at the hair salon. You're at the hair salon. Picture yourself sitting at the hair salon, and your stylist is going to color your hair. And the only 2 options you have, this is it. The only 2 options you have is rainbow colors in your hair or zebra stripes in your hair. Those are your only 2 choices. Which one would you pick? Would you go with rainbow colors in your hair or zebra stripes? With our strip sets, I'm just going to finger press the light purple just like this. Just finger press it over, and then I'm going to take it to my iron and give that a good press, nice and flat. Just like that. So here's my first one. And now let's finger press this other one. I would choose rainbow colored hair if those were my 2 choices. All right, so our second assignment was to sew together the 2 strip sets. And let me just give that a quick measurement and let you know, when you sew these together, they need to be 2.5 inches wide right here, 2.5 inches, and then the 10.5 inches that we started with. So there's our 2 strip sets. When you break down blocks like this, it makes them really easy to come together. Connie would pick rainbow hair and then she'd shave it all really cool. That would be awesome. Oh, Connie can't chat in the live chat, so she's sending me messages on Messenger. That's why you don't see Connie's question. So I get a little message from Connie on the side. She isn't able to join the live chat through her iPad. So she can watch through her iPad, but she has to send me messages in different ways. Hazel says, if you stitch through a stitch in the ditch, surely that would weaken the stitching. I'm not quite sure. I have no idea. I don't know the answer, the real answer. I've read it strengthens it. I've read that it weakens it. So I don't know. This is a tip from Sherry. She said if you want to stitch in the ditch, you'll want to lower your piecing stitches to 1.8 or 2.0. Thank you, Jadera. Thank you. I've had silver in my hair since 7th grade. I used to cover it up. I used to dye it and cover it up, and then that was just too much work. Too much work. All right, so we have, let's see, we have our half square triangles. We have our strip sets. The next thing we're going to do is work with these small little pieces. My fingers aren't that great with the small little pieces. They're 1.5 by 1.5. 1.5 by 1.5. We're going to be making a 4 patch with this. Okay, so let me move the strip sets over. We have our light purple and dark purple. We're going to match them up and sew a little 1/4 inch seam. These are going to be tiny little 4 patches. Tiny little 4 patches, just like that. We're going to sew 1/4 inch on these two. This is probably the hardest part of this block for me, working with the smaller little pieces. So there's one. And now let's match these up. And sew these two together. So we just did our first 2 seams of our 4 patch. Let's cut those apart. I'm going to finger press that light purple one over, just like that. Make sure it stays nice and straight. And I'm going to press that. For the other one, I'm going to finger press it towards the darker side. Oh no, I want to... I pressed towards the light purple side. I'm going to do the same exact thing. And that way my seams right in the middle will nest up and hopefully meet right in the middle. We're going to take our 2 little pieces and flip one around. So there we go. We're going to turn this over and sew that seam. Because my seams are going in opposite directions, the little lip, the little ledge on the other side is going to catch right there and hold that in place as I sew this 4 patch together. So this is our last assignment to do before we start laying out this block. Let me just finger press that over. Nice and flat. just like that, and I'm going to give that a press. Joan wants to know, could you do the little 4-patch as a strip set? Yes, if you were making several, that would be the fastest way to make lots of these little tiny 4-patches. Absolutely. Because we only need one little 4-patch, I'm doing it this way. If you were making lots of these blocks, absolutely make a strip set and then cut them apart. Especially if you're able to sew long strip sets with a nice straight seam. Absolutely. That would save you a lot of time. All right, here's my little baby 4-patch. She should measure 2.5 inches, the same width as our strip set. I'm going to give everybody a chance to catch up. Ah, Chantel, you found it. You can move your needle to the left or to the right. Which one is better, left or center? I know for my machine, when I first turn it on, it's in the center, and I have to move mine to the right to get my 1/4 inch. Yeah, they're little tiny pieces, right? Little tiny pieces. Beverly, you tried pink in your hair, but it wouldn't take. I think my hair, I don't know if it would last very long if I tried like pink or purple. It would probably hold on to purple. All right. All right. Let's move on to our next question. You have 2 choices. These are all like, you have 2 choices. You're going to move. And your 2 choices are moving to a tree house or moving into a cave set up as a house. Have y'all ever looked up pictures of really cool tree houses? There are some amazing tree houses. There's also some really cool houses in caves. Have you ever seen pictures of that? I think with my fear of heights, I would pick a cave. We've gone to several different caverns and caves, and it is so awesome. If you've never done a tour of a cave and you're able to do that, it is so cool. And even in the hot summer, you go on in the cave and it's nice and cool, like it's air conditioned. I would pick the cave. Teresa Louise, I quote too. She said, "Are you tired of sewing yet?" Nope. I sew every day anyway, as part of my business, part of my job anyway. I sew every day, so I'm kind of used to it. Sherry says, you hope it would hold on to purple. Yep, purple is my favorite color. Catakip, you love the little pieces like these. They're not my favorites. I have a harder time with the smaller pieces, but you love them. See, we're all different, right? We're all different. I'm giving everybody a chance to catch up with their little 4-patch. Luray Caverns are awesome. I've been there so many times. 2 years ago, we went to the Endless Caverns. And so everybody's working on their 4-patch and getting that pressed. Harlan and I went to the Endless Caverns a couple years ago, and we were the only ones who showed up for the tour. So we got to do a private tour. It was just the tour guide, me, and Harlan. So he took us to parts of the tour that when you have a large group going in the tour, you run out of time with. We got to go in some parts that not all tours go on because they run out of time. That was awesome. Luray Caverns. Yes, I've been there so many times. Wanda wants to know, why would you put the dark next to the dark? Wouldn't it look better, the light next to the dark? You mean like this? Like that? We're not laying these pieces out yet, Miss Wanda. I just set them down. Ooh, the Dixie Caverns in Salem, Virginia is good also. I haven't been there. That would be a good one to go to. Yes, Mimsy, you could have done this as a strip set just like this and then cut them apart. But because I'm only making one 4-patch, this is, if you were making lots of 4 patches, absolutely. That would save you a lot of time. All right, so now we're ready to go ahead and lay out this block. Now we're ready to lay out this block. Okie doke, we have left 2 of 5.5 by 5.5 yellow squares that we haven't touched at all. We have a single little 4-patch, we have 2 half-square triangles, and 2 strip units. So I'm going to lay mine out upside down so that it makes really good sense for you. Let's start with our 2 squares that we haven't touched. And they're going to go just like this. Just like that. Let's bring in our half-square triangles. And they're going to go just like this. We have 2 strip sets, and one is going to go, oops, let's see, let's scoot this over. Working upside down, that's not as easy. Let's scoot them over because we're going to put the strip set over here, Lisa, like this. And a strip set like this. And then we're going to make sure that we turn our little 4-patch so that the opposites line up, right? There's the layout for our block. There she is. Does that make more sense, Miss Wanda? I had just set down my pieces. I wasn't paying attention. There we go. That's going to be the order of which our pieces go. Just want to thank all my moderators again. Thank y'all so much. Y'all help make nice, enjoyable chatting sessions possible. Thank you. All right, so here's the next question. Here's the next question. Dun, 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 dun. Do they make left-handed sewing machines? I am not sure. I think it's just a standard sewing machine. Do they make left-handed sewing machines? I love this block too, right? Okay, our next question. All right, you got two choices. You got free money. Free money. You have your choice between $1 million credit on Amazon, $1 million, but you can only spend it on Amazon, or $100,000 in cash. Which one would you pick? $1 million Amazon credit. You can't get gift cards sent to you. $1 million credit on Amazon or $100,000 in cash. Which one would you pick? I think I'd take the Amazon credit because you could send people gifts. You could do so much. I'd take the $1 million Amazon credit. You get $100,000 cash or $1 million on Amazon credit. Which one would you pick? I think I'd take the Amazon because I would be able to do birthday gifts, Christmas gifts. I'd be able to send all my friends stuff. Yeah, I'd take the $1 million on Amazon, I think. All right. We're ready to start piecing this together. We're going to start right here. There's a 4 patch here with our half square triangles. So let's flip this over. And let's flip this over. And we're sewing that connecting seam with the 1/4 inch seam allowance. So there's the first one. And the second one. We're going to cut those apart. I'll be pressing my seam because this block has the seam right through the middle. It wants to lay flatter towards this big yellow square. So that's the way I'm going to press my seams. That's also going to allow us to nest that seam right in the middle when we put together this 4 patch. So there's my first one. Got little tidbits of thread everywhere. And my second one, just like that. Once you're at this part, you'll sew these two together. So just flip one right onto the other. With those seams going in opposite ways, there's a little ledge. It catches right there. We're going to try to get that point right in the middle. Try to stay nice and straight all the way down. I like this block too. I like this block too. What is the brand name of your cutting board? This is a Fisker's cutting mat. You can order it on Amazon. Let's see, like 24 by 36. That's the size of this one. It's Fiskars. You can find them at Joann's. I think Walmart carries them, and you can find them on Amazon. So now I'm just going to finger press this other side open, just like that, and then give that a good press. So here's our 4 patch with our 2 half square triangles right in the middle. I got my points in the middle. Doesn't always happen. When it does, I enjoy it when it happens. $1 million credit on Amazon. Wow, you could do so much with that. If you owned a business, you could really stock your business, right? This is it's rhetorical. So the money is coming, let's say it's a gift. You could really benefit your business that way, or your household. A cousin of mine in a different part of the state is a teacher, and she was doing a fundraiser, and we all went on Amazon and ordered a box of snacks for her classroom through Amazon and had it sent to her through Amazon. That was a great idea. So you could do stuff like that. All right. All right. Yeah. No gift cards. It's just credit. I'm an Amazon affiliate. And so I make small commissions on products that I link, the favorite things that I like to use in my videos. They give you a gift card. You can't turn around and exchange that for cash or another gift card for something else. You have to use it on Amazon. So, yeah. True. Sometimes there is shipping cost even if you are a Amazon Prime member. All right. Let's see. We have our 4 patch right in the center. Our 4 patch right in the center. We're going to stay on that question for just a little bit longer before we move to the last one. At this point, we're going to add a strip set to our 4 patch, and it does not matter if you add this one first or if you add this one. It doesn't matter. Pick one and flip it over and match up that raw edge. While you're doing that, I want you to go ahead and flip your 4 patch onto the other strip set just like this. Just like that. We're going to try to match up that seam that runs right through the middle of the 4 patch and the strip set here, right in the middle. Now we're going to sew both of these seams with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Throw some pins in there or glue baste it if you need to. I'm just going to hold it in place with my fingers and go a little bit slower to stay nice and straight. Oh, what was that? What did you do? I don't know why it did that. I don't know why it did that. That's all right. I'm going to pick back up right where it left off. For some reason, it didn't like that. My machine has got a little attitude today. All right, so there's that one. And now I'm going to bring over this strip set with the 4 patch. Try to line up that little middle seam right there. Okie dokie. Guess what? At this point, we have one more seam. One more seam. Do you have a list somewhere from Amazon? I do. I do. I always have a hard time finding that list, though. I don't know if you can go on Amazon and type in Lisa Capon and my list comes up. That might work. If not, I'll try to find the list. And if I find the list, I'll link it in the description box after this video is over. Ooh, you should do a quilt block with screen printing. Miss Sylvia, have you seen that quilt that I made with screen printing? There's a video on it. It is so much fun. Not everybody can do that though, so maybe we'll do that after this series is over. I might have a dust bunny, Miss Diane. I don't know why she would do that all of a sudden, but yeah, she probably needs a good cleaning. So Nut 5, I'm so glad the glue basting has helped you. Hazel said, talking about money upset my machine. I think sewing all these blocks, she needs a good cleaning. I think she needs a good cleaning out. All right, so let's finger press open these 2 seams that we just did. Look, today's a good day. I'm having a good sewing day. I made my point right there. Let's go ahead and press that nice and flat. And let's open up this strip set. When I have longer seams like this, I like to go ahead and just finger press them and make sure everything's nice and straight before I press it like that. And then I give it a good press. So here's my strip set. And here's the larger section of our block. We have 1 seam left to sew, and that's it. That's it right there. When I flip this, I'm going to try to be really mindful of this seam lining up right here. I'd like to really keep these points right here and right here if I can. So I'll be mindful when sewing that part right there. If it'll help you, throw some pins or glue baste it. Glue basting, that'll keep you right on point. Our last question for today. Our last question. Miss Sherry, I'm not quite sure why that would happen because they want you to send people over from your YouTube channel to Amazon. So I'm not quite sure why that happened. All right. As long as you are upfront and you let people know that you're an Amazon affiliate, I'm not quite sure why that would happen. I don't know. Our last question for today. If you got locked into a grocery store overnight, how would you spend your time locked in the grocery store? Have y'all seen that movie where she got locked in the Walmart and she had her baby? Where the Heart Lies or something like that. Ah, Debbie said, I typed in Lisa Cape and Quilts into Amazon and nothing but quilts came up, but they weren't mine. Yeah, I don't have any quilts on there. I'll try to find a link to my Amazon storefront that has all my favorite stuff. I don't like listing everything. If I haven't tried something myself, I don't list it. I only put on there stuff I have and stuff that I know that I like. What's on your t-shirt? It's Garfield eating a cheeseburger. That's my mood for the day. I want to eat everything today. All right, we have one more seam. We're going to sew this seam, trying to match up those little points. Sorry, I get distracted by the comments, and I just want to sit and read everything y'all are saying. We're going to line this up. Let's try to meet these points. Nice and straight all the way down. Try to meet that point. I'm going to lose it a little bit. I'm going to lose one of them. All right. Ooh, it just got dark outside. We're going to flip this over. Ah, my points are not exactly right. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe from this far away you can't see that so well. I see it up close, but that's all right. You know what? What do they say? 2 out of 3 ain't so bad. 2 out of 3 ain't so bad. I'm going to go ahead and give this a press. I'll take 2 out of 3. 2 out of 3 is good. I'm 46. I know people have babies older and later in life, but no. I'm not having a baby, I'm just fat. I just like cheeseburgers, y'all. Just like those cheeseburgers. Here's my finished block for today. Here's my finished odds and ends block. 12 inches. 12 inches. Sherry asked, do you ever put the side of the point up so that you don't clip your point? Sometimes I do. Yes, sometimes. Not always. If I were paying more attention, I would. You're so right, Jeannie. In a quilt, you'll never see the little points. In the big scheme of things. To be really honest, in the big scheme of things, when my quilt is done, I don't point these things out to people who just look at my quilts. I like to point things out to y'all because this is a tutorial, even though we're just enjoying spending time with each other. I do like to give you points that'll improve your piecing and your overall quilting skills. So I do point out my points. When I make them, I'm really happy, right? I do like to point them out to you so that you start paying attention. Doesn't mean they always are going to turn out right. But I like to show these things so that you can start paying attention to your piecing, not to always be perfect. But I'm just trying to give you little pointers. When this quilt is done, I would never show just anybody. Look how I didn't make that point. Oh, my points don't match. Y'all, if you don't point out your mistakes to the people looking at your quilts, they're never going to see them. They're never going to see them. I point them out because I want to show you so that might help improve your piecing. Sylvia, I like homemade and bought cheeseburgers. I like them both. I wouldn't turn either one down right this minute. I love them both. So here is our finished odds and ends quilt block. She measures 12.5 by 12.5 just like this. She'll finish at 12 inches in our quilts. Vicky, yeah, don't point everything out. Don't do it, girlfriend. Don't do it. No one's ever going to see it unless you point it out to them. Even then, they're like, I don't see what you're talking about. Keep all that stuff. That's all inside information. So why did my points not meet? Probably when I did my 1/4 inch seam, one was a little off. One was probably a little off. One was probably more of a scant 1/4 inch and one was probably a true 1/4 inch, and so it's caused these points right here not to meet up. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. All right, before we go for today, let me pull up the block we're doing tomorrow. So if you're taking notes, you can go ahead and write this down. And if you want to sew with me live tomorrow, you'll have a chance to cut out your pieces. Tomorrow's block is called Navajo. It's also a 12-inch quilt block, so if you're only making the 12-inch quilt blocks, or if you're changing the measurements to get a 12-inch quilt block, you're all set and ready to go for tomorrow. All the pieces you need. And this is the example picture of the block. And here in just a second, I'm going to show you what this block would look like arranged in a couple of different ways. So I want you to be able to take notes, take a screenshot, I like this block for tomorrow. Now I'm going to use the same colored fabrics as what you see here on the screen. Feel free to change up the colors if you want to. I think it would also be really pretty. I've used all green all the way for my half square triangles. I think it would be really pretty if you changed up the green and used different color half square triangles. You would need more different colored fabrics, but you don't have to do them all the same color. Hazel, thank you so, so much. Thank you, Miss Hazel. And you are so right. Only God's perfect. Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. Miss Debbie, is this block a pretender? The one for tomorrow or the odds and ends? I think odds and ends is pretty, you could look at that and pretty much tell how that goes together. So you know it's kind of a simple block. Tomorrow's block, I'm going to call it a pretender because you know what? By this time, this far along into this series, we should have our half square triangles down, right? Or we should be so much better with our half square triangles. And predominantly, that's what makes up tomorrow's block is half square triangles. So yeah, we'll call tomorrow's block a pretender. Thank you, Miss Cindy. Thank you so much. Yes, Sue, you could do it scrappy, all different colors. And I think that would be fantastic. Now let me show you this block arranged 3 different ways. 3 different ways. Take a look at that. If you went scrappy with this, instead of just repeating the same 4 colors, matter of fact, I would say, okay, so tomorrow I'm using 4 colors, but if I were to make a quilt with just this one quilt block, I would go scrappy in a heartbeat. I would. I might coordinate the blue fabric, like that portion of each block would be the same if I were doing it, but then I'd go scrappy with the rest. That's what I would do. But we're all different, right? Y'all, I want to thank all my moderators. Thank y'all so, so much. Y'all take out so much stress when I go live. Going live without you guys is so stressful. I just want you to know that I appreciate you so, so much. I really do. I really do. Ooh, Kim, if you did this in batiks. Yes. Ooh, wouldn't that be gorgeous? Now, which one is your favorite? The left, the middle, or the right? We were talking about this right before we came on YouTube today. I think my favorite layout is the one in the middle. Would you have multiple colors within the block? I think so. If I did scrappy, I would. Multiple colors. I might pick a... Okay, so when I say scrappy, let's break it down. The white fabric measurements you see, that's going to give you your background of your quilt. I would probably pick a predominant background, like a neutral or maybe a black. So everywhere you see white, you could do it scrappy white. So lots of different shades of white if you wanted to do it scrappy, or use one constant fabric as your background. You could do it either way, right? That would be fantastic. Vicky, when I say a pretender block, it's just a nickname that I give these quilt blocks that when you see them, they look really hard, but when you actually make it, it's a lot easier than you thought it would. It's one of those quilts, okay? Do you ever have a quilt pattern and you, as the quilt maker, you think it's pretty easy, but when you step back and look at the quilt, you're like, whoa, that is stunning, and people think it took you like 5 years to make the quilt, and it really didn't take that long because it looks harder than it actually was. I call those pretenders, right? They look so much harder than they actually are. Some of our blocks are kind of hard. Some of them just look harder than what they actually are. Ooh, Sherry says you could do ombre with the half square triangles and a family color. Yes. Thank you so much, Hazel. Thank you. Thank you, Miss Betty. Y'all are awesome. Y'all are awesome. Ooh, yeah, like Sherry says, the Bargellos are real pretenders, right? Because you're sewing together strip sets and then you cut them apart differently and just arrange the strips. And when you're done, it's like, holy moly, there's so many little squares, but you made strip sets to cut them out by. They don't have to know that you didn't piece all those little pieces together. Yes, so this is the block we're making tomorrow, Navajo. The Navajo block. It's going to be a 12-inch quilt block. That means when we're done, it'll be 12 and a half by 12 and a half. Tonight we're doing the Creative Crew live at 8 p.m. So if you're in the Creative Crew group and you have a free evening, make sure to check us out. Tuesday evenings are all about you, and we get to celebrate your accomplishments. We'll talk about your topics and your questions. It's a fun time. So if you're not doing anything, if you have not joined Creative Crew group and you're on Facebook, there's a link for it down in the description box. You have to answer the 2 security questions or we can't join you in. So make sure you answer the 2 security questions. They're not hard. But yes. Wow, Kim, you've been making quilts for 30 years. I've always said, it doesn't matter how long you've been doing something. We can always find something new to learn with it, or a new way to accomplish something, or new techniques, or improve what we're doing. We always should be growing, learning, and improving, right? Thank you so much. Debbie, is my favorite time of the day too, except for eating. Dinner, lunch, and breakfast. It's on the same equal time span of my day as those 3 things. Thank y'all so much. Thank you to my moderators. Thank you one more last time. I can't say it enough. Thank you so much. All right, everybody. This is tomorrow's block. Those are your pieces. If you just came in and you missed it, here you go, Miss Sella. The Navajo block. If you just came in and you missed these measurements, come back on the replay and you can pause the screen and jot them down. One more final look at my odds and ends quilt block for today. She's pretty. I love the purples. Just letting you know, the blocks on the wall are going to start coming down as I lay out my commissioned quilt. So the wall's going to look a little different for a couple days. And also, I'm working on the layout for this quilt. So, all exciting stuff. All exciting. What time tomorrow? It'll be about 12 to 12:30 Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. And it all depends on Harlan, who is still working from home. You never know. He might have a work meeting. If you subscribe and you hit the bell notification, YouTube should let you know when I go live. Doesn't always, but it should. I love you. Have a great day, everybody. Have a great day. I hope you do something really nice and relaxing and creative for yourself today. Bye.